It is time, my friends. It is time. It is time for me to butcher so many things, so many words in the English language that you literally don't understand. You don't understand how I'm willing to make all of you frustrated with hearing my ass talk and yap about oh fuck, that's my tail. About many things. Now, eat a chip? I will. You know what, luckily for you, I bought some chips today. I knew this was gonna happen. Love it. I bought chips today! Fuck, where'd I put them? I know that sounded like chips, but it wasn't chips. Oh! I gotta open it. Hold on. Unlike you, I opened my chips properly, not like a heathen! I get scissors when I cut the corner. Alright. Let me eat your chip. Breathe eye up. I will. Unlimited yap words. Yeah, if you ever wanted to hear me talk for like 2 hours straight, non-stop, here you go, guys. Now, first things first. Let me sit up straight. I will say this, I'm kind of nervous. I am pretty nervous about this. I've never really like read out loud before, but this is something that I want to do. And I want to build my confidence, and thank you, Astro, for telling that I'm stinky. I am pretty stinky. Thank you. It's fucking hot here in California. What do you want me to do? You want me to just stream me in the shower? In cold water? Bathtub stream? Hot tub stream? But like, pool? No, it's pool. Pool stream. Yeah. I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll get a kiddie pool. I'll do it. Never mind that. Okay, I'm nervous. I'm nervous, guys. I'm nervous. I'm sorry. I am also sick. Again. Yeah, the moment I did my schedule and everything, like, hey guys, I'm gonna do a reading stream. Because a lot of you guys enjoyed it. At least me reading the snippets that I did. And like the day after that, I got sick. I went to bed, woke up, felt that tingle in my throat, and I said, ah, fuck. So here I am. We're on day 2 of my sickness. Whatever it is, I'm pretty sure it's a cold. I'm 100% sure it's a cold. I got sniffles. I got mad sniffs, dude. I be like up and here going, I be sniffing. I know right now it smells. It sounds like I have nothing in my nose, right? Straight up, normal sniff. You don't know how much cough medicine I am under right now just to make sure that I don't have the grossy cough right now and the grossy congestion. I have gotten some, what is this? Ultra moisturizing fine mist. Fast sinus congestion and pressure relief. Powerful Vic Vapors. Soothing alloy. Sinus severe. I don't know. It's something you shove up your nose and you inhale it. I don't know, but that thing, best thing I've ever bought in my life. Why did I know about it sooner? You know? That, great. Chef kiss. I ain't gonna join the hot tub meta. Look, maybe not. You know, I don't got like a nice bod. But I am gonna dilly-dally for like a few more minutes just to make sure everybody's kind of here. Because, you know, we're starting a book. And if you kind of miss out, you don't know what's going on. So, you know. Just like class, if you're 15 minutes late, that's it, chief. That's it. You fucked up. Don't you guys ever... Okay. When you were young and you were in school, have you guys had that one class that, like, the teacher is late, so you guys are all standing outside the door, and somebody brings up, if they're 15 minutes late, that means we can all go home. And then so you guys start counting the time. You start looking at your watches. You start looking at your phones. Like, please be 15 minutes late. And then they turn around the corner and you're like, fuck! And they got some books, they got a mug, they're like, oh, sorry guys. Yeah. I've always hoped that my teachers were late, and only because, like, regardless if it was the middle of the day, just so I can sit down and, like, take a nap. Dude, I'm a mad napper. As a kid, I napped. I sat down on any bench, I was remed nappy. Go, how true, you know? Please don't say anything about getting bigger. I was like, I'll be rubbing my hands. Hold up. I'll be telling you what we gonna be reading today, homeboys. Okay. So, what are we reading today? What is the book that I have chosen for you guys? Okay. All right. So the book that I've chosen for you is quite something. I don't know what it is 100%. Okay. All right. Good. Perfect. I don't know what it is 100%. I was doing some research. It's a few days that I was doing my research, and I was like, hey, you know what? You know what what would piss off my chat? No, I'm joking. I got something. No, not 50 Shades of Grey. Not 50 Shades. No, not 50 Shades of Grey. I chose something that's a bit more tame, something that's kind of well known in the book romancy. What do they call it? Romance fantasy? Romance? Here's the first word. It's romance and fantasy combined, but they say it in such a way. Romancy? Is it literally romancy? Pronunciation. Romancy. It's literally, it's romancy, isn't it? Romanticy? Perhaps? But it's this is a book series. I believe there is 5 books of this. But let me give you okay, let me actually be a teacher real quick. Alright. You know, since I'm gonna be a teacher, I set up a good space for this. Come here. Wait. Shit, wrong space. Here we go. I set up a good space for this. You know, I got the moodiness going on. Yeah. I got this, guys. I got this. I am... I'm doing good. This is my first time. Be gentle. Be gentle with me. Alright. So, let me tell you about the book that we're gonna read. And after I read, I don't know how long these chapters are. So we could be reading the first chapter on the stream, or we can dip into the second chapter. But we will be discussing about this book, and I want everybody's opinion on this book. Please and thank you. Now, this book series has... Oh shit. Actually, it has 6 books. This is a 6-book series. Will I be reading all 6 books on stream? I don't know about this, Chief. I don't know about that. But you know what? We will definitely start something. I will get you guys interested at least in a book. That is my goal in these book streamings. I will get you interested in at least one. Now, what is book 1? What is the book? So, we are reading From Blood and Ash. It is a book made by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I believe that's how you say it. I could be butchering her last name. But let me give you the book description. We'll be reading off of the book description. It could be worse. You could be reading 70 books. There's a 70 book series. What is this? History? What? Nani? No. We're not gonna do that. No. 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 Warhammer? Oh fuck, never mind. I made a mistake. Yes, Warhammer. Okay, understandable. Okay. Book description. I'm gonna be reading this book description, and I want your thoughts on it for those who wish to participate. If not, then I will just kind of continue on. And I will butcher words. This is kind of more practice for me than it is for you listening. And because this is an Ayaudible, audible, Ayaudible, I don't know if you guys want music in the background. I do have some nice choices of music to place in the background today. Being just soft library noises like this, if you can hear it currently. Soft pitter-pattering, page-turning, fire of a thing. Or I can take it off and then you could just hear my AC blurring in the background. You know, it's on you if you would like that. I don't know what is your preference with things. Like I said, this is gonna be very new. All of you be gentle with me. And dogs barking in my background. We're in school, guys. We're in school. But for now, I will put this on and you guys will let me know. Let me know, okay? Are you playing music right now? I now play music. I can put it louder if you want me to. It's very subtle. I don't want like kind of jingle music. It's steady ambience. Ambiance. Okay. Cool. Great. Alright. Alright, let me read this. I'm already tired. Fuck! I don't hear it? Really? Properties. Nah, it should be playing. I guess it's quiet enough. Alright, never mind then. I can hear it. You guys should be able to hear it. It is very quiet. Yeah, I can put it louder. Does that work? We'll leave it at that. Cough, cough. Alright. Book description, guys. Book description. Here we go. Once again, we are reading from Blood and Ash. This is book 1 out of 6 books. Now I hear it. Alright. Is my AC too loud? I'll be sweating over here. Here. I'm trying my best. I'm going to be sweating as fuck in here. Alright, alright. Okay, book description. I gotta stop dilly-dallying. Alright. Captivating and action... Already. Fuck! I'm nervous! Captivating and action-packed from Blood and Ash is a sexy, addictive, and unexpected fantasy perfect for fans of Sarah J. Maas and Lara Talisa. A maiden. Chosen from birth to usher a new era, Poppy's life has never been her own. The life of a maiden the life of a maiden is solitary, never to be touched, never to be looked upon, never to be spoken to, never to experience pleasure. Waiting for the day of her ascension, she would rather be within the guards fighting back the evil that took her family away, than preparing for some worthy of the gods. But the choice has never been hers. My bad. Okay. I had to scroll down. Captain, what are you doing? A duty. The entire kingdom's future rests on Poppy's shoulders. Something she's not even quite sure she wants herself. Because of a maiden has a heart and a soul and longing. And when Hawk, a golden-eyed guard, honor bound to assure her ascension, enters her life, destiny and duty become entangled with desire and need. He entices her anger, makes her question everything she believes in, and tempts her with the forbidden. A kingdom.
Forsaken by the gods and feared by mortals. A fallen kingdom is the rising once more, determined to take back what they believe that's theirs, through the violence and vengeance, and for the shadow of those cursed draws closer. The line between what's forbidden and what is right becomes blurred. Poppy is not only on the verge of losing her heart, but being found unworthy by the gods, but also her life, when the very blood-soaked thread that holds her world together becomes unraveled. So that is the book description. Essentially, this book, like I said, it's fantasy romance. It is a medieval time period, I believe. I don't know if there's creatures, like elf, fae, dragons. Unsure. But it has action. So, I will try my best, okay? Okay, guys? Oh, shit. I'm trying to maneuver this website. This is not, if this website, Aku, help me find this website. I will not tell you what the website is, but just to let you know, my scroll button is still broken, and I gotta scroll, and this is absolutely horrendous. Now, I probably should read the disclaimer, huh? Actually, let me read the disclaimer. I don't want to... Every time I hear an audiobook, the disclaimer is read. Okay. Alright. You're on the hub, aren't you? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Alright. From Blood and Ash, a Blood and Ash novel by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Copyrighted by 2020 Jennifer L. Armentrout. Published by Blue Box Press, an imprint of Evil Eye Corporates. Incorporated. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, scanned, or distributed in any printed or electronic form without permission. Please do not participate or encourage privacy of copyrighted materials in violation of the author's rights. This is a work of fiction. Names, places, characters, and incidents are the product of the author's imagination and are fictitious. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events, or establishments is solely coincidental. Alright. Are we breaking copyright? I don't think so. This book has a lot of audiobooks on YouTube. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie to you. There's a lot of audiobooks. Alright. Now, from this point on, I will be as professional as I possibly can. So, if I butcher words, I am sorry. I will stumble, but please just be gentle with me. Be supportive. Thank you. Alright. Chapter 1. They found Finley this evening, just outside the Blood Forest, dead. I looked upon from my cards across from the crimson-painted surface to 3 men sitting at the table. I've chosen this spot for a reason. I felt nothing from them when I drifted between the crowded tables earlier. No pain, physical or emotional. Normally I didn't prod to see if anybody was in pain. Doing so without reason felt incredibly invasive, but in crowds it was difficult to control just how much I allowed myself to feel. There was always someone whose pain cut so deeply, so raw, that their anguish became a palatable entity. I didn't even have to open my eyes to feel these senses. That I could not ignore and walk away from. They projected their agony onto the world around them. I was forbidden to do anything but ignore, to never speak of the gift bestowed upon me by the gods, and to never, ever go behind the sensing actually doing something about it. Not that I always did, or was I supposed to, obviously, but these men were fine when I reached out with my senses to avoid those in great pain, which was surprisingly, given that they did for a living. They were guards from the rise, the mountainous, all constructed from the limestone and iron mined from the Sicilian peaks. Ever since the War of the Two Kings ended 4 centuries ago, the rise had enclosed all of Macedonia, and every city in the kingdom of Solace was protected by the rise. Smaller versions surrounding villages and training posts, the farming communities and other sparsely populated towns. What the guards saw on the regular basis and what they had to do often left them in anguish, rather than be it from injuries or from what went deeper than torn skin and bruised bones. Oh fuck, this is a lot of words. Oh shit. Hold on, I gotta zoom in, I'm old. Oh, where's my glasses? Tonight, they weren't just absent of anguish, but also their armor and uniforms. Instead, they donned loose shirts and buckskin breeches. You decided to do this? I did. I wanted to read, here I am. Still, I knew, even off duty, they were watchful for signs of the dreaded mist and the horror that came with it. And for those who worked against the future of the kingdom, they were still armed to the teeth. As was I. Hidden beneath the folds of the cloak and the thin gown I wore underneath, a cool hint of a dagger that never quite warmed to my skin was sheathed against my thigh, gifted to me on my 16th birthday. It wasn't the only weapon I acquired or the deadliest, but it was my favorite. The handle was fashioned from bones of long extinct wolven, a creature that had been neither man nor beast, but both, and the blade made out of bloodstone horned for its fatal sharpness. I may yet again be in the process of doing something incredibly reckless, inappropriate, and fully forbidden, but I wasn't foolish enough to enter a place like the Red Pearl without protection. The skill to employ it was where withdrawal to take the weapon and skill to use them without any hesitation. Dead, the other guard said, a younger one with brownish hair and a soft face. I thought his name might be Eric, and he couldn't be much older than 18 years. He wasn't dead. Finley was drained of blood. His flesh chewed up like wild dogs had got to him, and he was torn to pieces. My cards blurred as tiny balls of ice formed in the pits of my stomach. Wild dogs didn't do that. Not to mention, there weren't any wild dogs near the Blood Forest. The only place in the world where the trees bled, staining the bark and the leaves of deep crimson. There were rumors of other animals, overly large rodents and scavengers that preyed upon the corpses of those who lingered too long in the forest. And you know what that means, Eric went on. They must be near. An attack, well, I'm not sure if this is the right conversation to be having, an older guard cut in. I knew him. Phillips. Ratty. He had been in the rise for years, which was nearly unheard of. Guards didn't have long lifespans. He nodded in my direction. You're in the presence of a lady. A lady? Only the Ascended were to be called ladies, and I wasn't anyone. Especially those in the building, who would expect to be inside the Red Pearl. If I was discovered, I would be in, well, more trouble than I ever been in before, and would face severe reprimand. The kind of punishment that Doran Termek, the Duke of Minnesota, the Duke of Minsadona, would just love to deliver, in which, of course, his close confidant, Lord Branzel Matson, would love to be in attendance for. Anxiety surfaced as I looked at the dark-skinned guard. There was no way Phillips could know who I was. On top... Fuck. The top... Sorry, my bad. The top half of my face was covered by a white domino mask I found discarded in the Queen's Gardens ages ago, and I wore a plain robin's egg blue coat. Take your time, dude. Look, I'm having a struggle. I'm having a heart attack, I swear to God. And I borrowed from Brentna, one of the many castle servants who I overheard speaking about the Red Pearl. Hopefully, Britta wouldn't discover her missing trench coat before I returned it to her in the morn. Even without the mask, though, I count on one hand how many people in Macedonia that I have seen my face, and none of them would be here tonight. As the maiden, the chosen, a veil usually covered my face and hair at all times, all except for my lips and jaw. I doubted Phillips would recognize me solely by those features, and if he had, none of them would still be sitting here. I would be in the process of being dragged back, albeit gently, to my guardians, the Duke and Duchess of Macedonia. There was no reason to panic. Forcing the muscles along my shoulders and neck to ease, I smiled. I am no lady. You're more than welcome to talk whatever you wish. Be it that it may, a little less morbid topic would be welcomed, Phillips replied, sending a pointed look at the direction by the other two guards. Eric lifted his gaze to mine. My apologies. Apologies not needed, but accepted. The third guard ducked in his chin, studiously staring at his cards as he repeated the same. His cheeks had pinked, something I found rather adorable. The guards who worked at the Rise went through vicious trainings, becoming skilled in all matters of weaponry and hand-to-hand combat. None who survived their first venture outside the Rise came back without shedding blood and seeing death. And yet, this man blushed. I gotta turn the page. Hydrate? Yeah, thanks. Alright, next page. I cleared my throat. I can't do this seriously all the time. I need a moment. Alright. Wanting to ask more about who Finley was, whether he was a god from the Rise or a huntsman, a division of the army that feared communication between the two cities of escorted travelers and goods. They spent half the year outside the protected of Rise. It was far one of the most dangerous of all occupations, so they never traveled alone. Some never returned. Unfortunately, a few who didn't come back the same. They returned with rapidly spreading death snapping at their heels. Cursed. Sensing that Philip would silence any further conversation, I didn't voice any questions dancing on the tip of my tongue. And if others had been with him, and had been wounded by what was most likely that had killed Finley, I would find out one way or another. I just hoped it wasn't through the screams of terror. The people of Macedonia had no real idea exactly how many returned from outside the Rise, cursed. They only saw a handful here and there, and not the reality. If they did, panic and fear would sure to ignite the people and populace who had truly had no concept of the horror outside the Rise. Not like my brother Ian and I. Which was why when the topic at the table switched to more mundane things, I struggled to will the ice coating my insides to thaw. Countless lives were given and taken by the endeavor to keep those inside the Rise safe, but it was failing. Had there been a failing? Not just there, but throughout the Kingdom of Solace. Death. Death always found a way in. Stop, I ordered myself as the general sense of uneasiness began to swell. Tonight wasn't about all those things. I was aware that I probably shouldn't be. Tonight was about the living. About not being up all night, unable to sleep, alone and feeling like I had no control. No idea of who I was other than what I was. Another poor hand was dealt, and I played enough cards that Ian to know that there was no recovering from the ones that I held. When I announced that I was out, the guards nodded as I rose, each bidding me a good evening. Moving between the tables, I took the flute of champagne offered by a server with a gloved hand and tried to recapture the feelings of excitement that buzzed through my veins as I hurried through the streets earlier that evening. I minded my business as I scanned upon the room, keeping my senses to myself. Even outside, for those who didn't manage to project their anguish into the air around them, I didn't need to touch anyone. I didn't need to touch somebody to know that they were hurting. I just needed to see someone to focus. That they looked like they didn't change if they were expecting some sort of pain, and their appearance didn't change if I concentrated on them. I simply felt their anguish. Physical pain was almost always hot, but not the kind that couldn't be seen. But the kind that couldn't be seen. It was almost always cold. Bowery shouts and whistles snapped me out of my own mind. A woman in red sat at the edge of the table next to me, where I left. She wore a gown made of scraps of red satin and gauze that barely covered her thighs. One of the men grabbed a fistful of her dabbiest little skirt. Smacking his hand away from the saucy grin, she laid back, her body forming a sensible curve. Her thick blonde curls spilled across forgotten coins and chips. "Who wants to win me tonight?" Her voice was deep. Oh, that wasn't deep. Her voice was deep and smoky as she slid her hands across the waist of a frilly corset. "I can assure you, boys, I will last longer than any part of gold will." "And what if it's a tie?" one of the men asked, a fine cut of his coat suggesting that he was a well-to-do merchant or businessman of some sort. "Then it will be far more entertaining a night for me," she said, drawing one hand down her stomach, slipping even lower between her cheeks. Heating, I quickly looked away. I took a sip of the bubbly champagne. My gaze found its way to a dazzling glow of rose gold chandelier. The World Pearl must be doing well, and the owners well connected. Electricity was expensive and heavily controlled by the royal court. It made me wonder who someone of their clientele was for the luxury to be available. Under the chandelier, another card game was in progress. There were women there too, their hair twisted in elaborate updos adorned with crystals, and their clothing far less daring to the woman who worked here. Their gowns were vibrant shades of purple and yellow, pastel hues and blue and lilac. I was only allowed to wear white, whether it was in my room or in public, which wasn't often. So I was fascinated by how different colors complemented the wearer's skin or hair. I imagine I looked like a ghost most of the days, roaming the halls of the castle tournament in white. These women who wore domino masks that covered half their faces protecting their identities. I wondered who some of them were. Daring wives left alone to too many time? Young women who hadn't married or perhaps widowed? Servants or women who worked the city, out for the evening? Were ladies and lords in wait among the masked females at the tables amongst the crowd? Did they come here for the reasons that I did? Boredom? Curiosity? Loneliness? If so, then they were alike, and I realized. Even though that they were second to daughters and sons given to the royal court upon their 13th birthday, during the Knoll rite, I was Penelope of the castle tournament, kin to the what word is this? Balfours, and the queen's favorite. I was the maiden, chosen, and in a little under a year, upon my 19th birthday, I would ascend. As would all the ladies and lords in wait, our ascensions would be different, but it would be the largest one of the first god's blessing that occurred after the end of the War of the Two Kings. Very little would happen to them if they were caught, but I would face the Duke's displeasure. My lips thinned as the kernel of anger took root, mingling with the sticky residue of disgust and shame. The Duke was a Persilence, of oddly familiar hands, and had a natural thirst for punishment. But I wouldn't think of him either, nor worry about being disciplined. I might as well go back to my chambers if I was going to do that. Dragging my gaze from the table, I noted that there were smiling and laughing women at the Pearl who wore no mask and hid no identities. They sat at tables with guards and businessmen, stood in showy clothes, and spoke with masked men, women, and those who worked for the Red Pearl. They weren't ashamed or afraid to be seen. Whether they were, or they had their freedom, I differently coveted. Confident. Coveted. Interesting. Sorry. An independence chase tonight, because masked and unknown, no one but the gods would know that I was here. And as far as the gods were concerned, I had a long way to decide if they were far better things to do than spend their time watching me. After all, if they had been paying attention, they would know that I would already take... After all, if they had been paying attention, They would have already taken me to task over mundane things I already done, and I was forbidden to do. I need a drink. Is everything good? Everybody okay? Everything good? Alright. So, I could be anyone tonight. The freedom that was far headier sensation than I imagined. Even more so than the unripe poppy seeds provided by those who had smoked them. Tonight I wasn't the maiden, I wasn't Penelope, I was simply Poppy. The fuck is this?
Who are you and what have you done with Aya? She never streams.
I'm reading! I may never stream, nor read, but today we will.
Going back. As Poppy, there was no strict rules to follow or expectations to fulfill. No future ascension that was coming quicker than I was prepared for. There was no fear, no past, no future. Tonight, I could live a little. Even for a few hours, I could rack up as much experience as I could before I returned to the capital, to the Queen. Before I was given to the gods. A shiver tiptoed down my spine. Uncertainty, along with the bite of desolation. I tempered it down, refusing to give it life, dwelling on what was to become, and could not change serve no purpose. Hold on. I thought my dog came in. Besides Ian and the Ascension 2 years ago, and based on the monthly letters I received for him, he was the same. The only difference was that instead of spitting tales with his voice, he did so with words in each letter. Just last month, he wore about 2 children, a brother and sister, who swam to the bottom of the stout sea, befriending the waterfolk. I smiled as I lifted the champagne flute, having no idea where he came up with such things. As far as I knew, it was impossible to swim to the bottom of the stout sea, and there was no such thing as waterfolk. Shortly after his ascension, on the orders of the king and queen, he married lazy Claudia. Ian never spoke about his wife. Was he happy with his marriage? The cover of my lips faded as my gaze dropped to the fizzling, pinkish drink. I wasn't sure, but they barely known each other before marrying. How was that long enough? Wait, what? How was that long enough when you presumably spent the rest of your life with one person? That is a weird sentence. And the Ascension lived for a very long time. It was still odd for me to think about Ian as an Ascendant. He wasn't a second son, but because I was the maiden, the Queen had petitioned the gods for a rare exception to the natural order, and they had allowed him to ascend. I wouldn't face what Ian had, marriage or to another Ascendant, one who was sure to convey beauty above all else, because attractiveness was seen as godlike. Are we done with the chapter? Oh my god. And even though I was the maiden, the chosen, I would never be viewed as godlike. According to the Duke, I wasn't even beautiful. I was a tragedy. Without realizing it, my fingers brushed the scratchy lace to the left side of the mask, and I jerked my hand away. A man I recognized as a god rose from the table, turning to a woman wearing white mask like I. Hi, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stick cult, we're reading a book. He extended a hand to her, speaking words too low for me to hear, but she answered with a nod and smile before placing her hand in his. She rose, the skirt of a lilac-hued gown falling like liquid around her legs, as he led her from the room towards the only 2 doors accessible by guests, one at either end of the interconnecting chambers. The right one went outside, the left door led upstairs, to more private rooms where Britannia had all her matter of things according.
I'm surprised Twitch allows reading yaoi on stream.
It's not yaoi. Hi, I know oh, you know Twilight. She's in trouble? Shit, what'd she do? The guard took the masked woman to the left. Oh, they're gonna fuck! Okay. He asked, and she said yes. Whatever they did upstairs, it would be welcomed by chosen by the both, regardless of whether it lasted a few hours or a lifetime. My attention lingered to the door long after it had closed. Was that another reason why I came here tonight? To experience pleasure with somebody of my choosing? I could if I wanted to. I've overheard conversations between the ladies in Wait who weren't expecting to remain untouched according to them. There were many things a woman could do that brought pleasure while retaining their purity. Purity? I hated that word. The meaning behind it. As if my virginity... Okay. Alright, I should have pre-read this book. If my virginity determined by the goddess of innocence in the presence of lack therefore of, it was somehow more important than 100 choices I made every day. There was even a part of me that wondered what the gods would do if I went to them no longer an actual maiden. Would they overlook everything else I did or didn't do simply because I was no longer a virgin? I wasn't sure, but I hoped it wasn't the case. Not because I planned to have sex or the next week or now, or ever, but because I wanted to be able to make that choice. Though, I wasn't quite sure of how I find myself in a situation where that option would even arise. But I imagine there'd be willing participants who would want to do many things I've heard that the ladies in waiting speaking about here at the Red Pearl. A nervousness fluttered beat in my chest as I forced myself to take another sip of the champagne. The sweet bubbles tickled the back of my throat, easing some of the sudden dryness in my mouth. Truth be told, tonight had been a spur-of-the-moment decision. Most nights I couldn't even fall asleep until it was nearly dawn, and when I did, I almost wish I hadn't. 3 times this week alone, I woke from a nightmare, with my screams ringing in my ears, and they came like this, in clusters. They felt like a hard-bringer, an instinct much like the ability to sense pain screaming without warning. Drawing out a shallow breath, I glanced back to where I had been looking before. The woman in red was no longer on the table. Instead, she was on the lap of a merchant who asked what would happen if 2 men won. He was inspecting his cards, but his hands where hers had been heading earlier, dwelled between her thighs. Oh my. Biting down on my lip, I pulled away where I stood before my entire face caught on fire. I drifted into the next space that was separated by a partial wall where another round of games was being played. There were more guards here. Some even recognized belonging to the royal court. Some soldiers. Oh my god. Soldiers. Just like the 2 worked on the rise, but who had protected the Ascendant instead. This is why the Ascendant almost had personal guards. People had tried to kidnap members of the court before the ransom. No one usually hurt too seriously in those situations, but there were been other attempts that seemed from far different, more violent reasons. Standing near a leafy potted plant that sported tiny red buds, I, unsure what to do from here, could join another card game or strike up a conversation with any amount of numerous people who lingered around the tables. But I wasn't so good at making small talk with strangers. There was no doubt in my mind that I'd blurt out something bizarre or ask a random question that would make little sense to my conversation. So that was off the table. Maybe I should head back to my chambers. The hour had to be growing late, and a strange weariness swept over me, startling me as a tingling sensation along my back of the neck, and intensifying with every passing second. It felt like I was being watched. Scanning the room, I didn't see anybody paying attention to me, but I expected to find somebody staring near. That was how potent the feeling was. Uneasiness blossomed in the pit of my stomach. I started to turn towards the entrance when a soft, drawn-out note of something sort of a string instrument drew my attention to the left. My gaze landing on a gauzy, blood-red curtain that swayed gently from the movement of others in the establishment. Page turn. I stilled, listening to the rise and fall of the tempo that soon joined by the heavy thump of a drum. I forgot the feeling of being watched. I forgot about a lot of things. The music was... it was like nothing I've ever heard before. It was deeper, thicker, slowing, and then speeding up. It was sensual. What had Bridia, the servant, said about this kind of dancing that took place in the Red Pearl? She lowered her voice when she spoke about it. And on the other maid, Bridia had been speaking to had looked scandalized. Making my way along the outskirts of the room, I neared the curtains, reaching out to part them. I don't think you want to go in there. Startled, I turned at the sound of the voice. A woman stood behind me, one of the ladies who worked for the Red Pearl. I recognized her, not because she had been on the arm of a merchant of a businessman when I first came in, but because she was utterly beautiful. Her hair was deep black, thickly curled, and her skin was deep rich brown. The red gown she wore was sleeveless, low cut across her chest, and the fabric clung to her body like liquid. I'm sorry? I said, unsure what else to say as I lowered my hand. Why wouldn't I? They're just dancing. Just dancing! Her gaze lifted from over my shoulder to the curtain. Some would say the dance is to make love. I hadn't heard that. Slowly I looked behind me. Through the curtains, I could make out the shapes of the bodies churning in time with the music, their movements full of memorizing and fluid grace. Some danced alone, their curves and forms utterly outlined, while others... I sucked in a sharp breath, my eyes swinging back to the woman before me. Her red painted lips curved into a smile. Is this your first time here, isn't it? I opened my mouth to deny that statement, but before I could feel the heat spreading across every visible part of my face. That alone was telling. Is that obvious? She laughed. The sound was throaty. Not to most, but to me, yes. I've never seen you here before. How would you know if you had? I touched my mask just to make sure it hadn't slipped. Your mask is fine. There was a strange knowing glint in her eyes, which were a mix of gold and brown. Not exactly hazel. The gold was far more too bright and warm for that. They reminded me of another who had eyes the color of deep kryptonite. Critite? I know a face whether it's half rain or not, and yours is one I haven't seen before. This is your first time. Surely I had no idea how to respond to that. And it's the Red Pearl's first time also. She leaned in, her voice lowering. As we've never had a maiden walk through the doors. A wave of shock whirled through me as my grip tightened on the slippery champagne glass. I don't know what you mean. I'm the second daughter to... You're like a second daughter. But not in the way you intend. She cut in, lightly touching my cloaked arm. It's okay. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to fear. Your secret is safe with me. I stared at her for what felt like an entire minute before I recovered the use of my tongue. If that were true, why would that kind of secret be safe? Why would it not be? She returned. What would I have to gain by telling anybody? You'll earn the favor of the Duke and Duchess, my art thumped. Her smile faded as her stare hardened. I have no need to favor from the Ascended. The way she said that, it was as if I suggested that she was courting a favor with a pile of mud. I almost believed her. But no one who had lived within the kingdom would waste the chance to earn the Ascension's esteem unless they didn't recognize Queen Elda and the King Jarla. Noni? Jarlia. Okay. As the true rightful rulers, unless they supported those who called himself Prince Castiel, the true heir to the kingdom. Except he was no prince or heir. He was nothing more than a remnant of... Atlia? Fuck, what word is this? The bit... Hold up. Hold up. This is a sidetrack. I need to know. You can Google it if you can't read it. I'm Googling, bitch. I'm Googling. I know what I am. Watch this be like a super easy word. And my brain just had like a brain fart, as they say. It's like Atlas, but not. Cool. Hold on. How the fuck do you pronounce this? How to pronounce?
Atlantia.
Yeah, help me, bitch. Help me.
Atlantia.
Atlantia. What?
Atlantia.
Atlantia. Okay. Alright, there you go. Atlantia. Shaking my head. Okay, Atlantia. Damn, I really be like this. Of Atlantia. The corrupt and twisted kingdom that had fallen at the end of the War of Two Kings. A monster who had wreaked havoc and caused bloodshed in the embodiment of pure evil. He was the Dark One, and yet there were those who supported him and his claims. Dissenters who had been a part of the riots and disappearance of many ascended in the past. The dissenters only caused discord in the small rallies of protest, and even then, that they were a few and far between due to the punishment that had meted out those who were suspected to be dissenters. The trials couldn't even be combat, no second chances, no long-term punishments. Death was swift and final. But many things changed of late. Many believed the descendants had been responsible for the mysterious deaths of the high-ranking royal guards, several in Considonia, the capital, in which inexplicably fallen from the rise. 2 had been killed with arrows through the back of their heads in Pinsforth, a smaller city on the coast of Stout Sea, near the capital. Others had simply vanished, while other smaller villages never to be seen or heard from again. Only a few months ago, a violent uprising of the end of the bloodshed of the Three Rivers, a teeming trade city beyond the Blood Forest, Goldcrest Manor, the royal seat of the Three Rivers, had been burned, razed to the ground, along with the temples. Duke Evertont had died in the fire. Along with many servants and gods, it was only by some sort of miracle that the Duchess of Three Rivers had escaped. The descendants weren't just Atlantias, Antias, who had hidden among the people of Solus. Some of the Dark One's followers didn't even have a drop of Atlantia blood in them. My gaze sharpened and zeroed on the beautiful woman. Could she be a dissenter? I couldn't fathom how anybody could support the fallen kingdom, no matter how hard their lives were or unhappy they may be. Not when the Atlantias of the Dark One were responsible for the mist, for those who had festered inside of it, for those who had most likely ended Finley's life. Had taken countless more lives, including my mother's and the father's, that had left my body riddled with the reminder of the horror thrived inside the mist. I need to take a drink. I need a drink. I need a drink. I need a sip. The dog's barking. Never ending. Never ending, guys. Okay. Fuck, I lost my page. Pushing aside my assumptions for the moment, I opened myself to the sense if there was some great pain inside of her. Something that went beyond the physical esteemment from the other griefs of bitterness. The kind of pain that would made people do horrible things and try to elevate the anguish. There was no hint that was radiating from her, but that didn't mean that she wasn't a dissenter. The woman tilted her head. As I said, you have nothing to worry about. When it comes to me, him, that's another story. Him? I repeated. She moved to the side of the main door, opened, and a gust of cool air announced the arrival of more Patreons. A man walked in, and behind him was an older gentleman with sandy blonde hair that weathered face, colored by the sun. My eyes widened in disbelief, thundered through me. It was Victor Wardswell. What was he doing at the Red Pearl? An image of the woman with short gowns and partially exposed breasts came to mind, and I thought about why I was here. My eyes widened. Oh gods. I didn't want to think about the purpose of his visit any longer. Victor was the seasoned member of the royal court, a man well into his 4th decade of life. But he was more than that to me. The dagger strapped to my thigh had been a gift from him. And who was yelling? A gift for him. And it was he who broke the custom that made sure I not only knew how to use it, but also knew how to wield a sword, strike a target unseen with an arrow, and even when weaponless, how to take down a man twice my size. Victor was like a father to me. He was my personal guard and had been since I first arrived to Macedonia. He wasn't only guard, though. He shared duties with Rylan Keel. Pause. Side note, there's a lot of fucking names in this book. I hope you guys are taking notes, because I don't know who's who anymore. Who replaced Hans when he passed in his sleep little less than a year ago. It had been an unexpected loss that Hans had been in his early 30s in the prime of health. The healers believed it had to have been some unknown ailment of the heart. Still, it was hard to imagine how one could sleep healthy with the whole and never wake up again. Ryan didn't know that I was well trained as I was, but he knew that I could handle a dagger. He wasn't aware where Victor and I all too often disappeared to outside the castle. He was kind and often relaxed, but when we nearly wasn't as close as Victor and I were. If it had to be Rylan here, I could have easily slipped away. Damn it, I swore, turning sideways as I reached back and pulled the hood of my cloak up over my head. Oh shit. What happened? Oh, the page loaded. Hold on. Oh, my bad. I thought my internet was dying. Oh shit. Damn it. I swore, turning aside as I reached back to pull the hood of my cloak over my head. My hair was rather noticeable shade of burnt copper, but even when it was hidden now, my entire face obstructed, Victor would recognize me. He had a sixth sense that only belonged to parents and made itself known when their child was up to no good. Glancing back towards the entrance, my stomach dropped when I saw him sit on one of the tables facing the door, the only exit. The gods hated me. Truly they did, because there was no doubt in my mind that Victor would see me and he would report me. But I would rather crawl into a hole filled of roaches and spiders than attempt to explain to him, out of all people, why I was at the Red Pearl. And there would be lectures, not only speeches and punishments that the Duke loved to deliver, but the kind that would curl under your skin and make you feel terrible for days. Mainly because you had to be caught doing something you deserved and reprimanded for. And frankly, I did not want to see Victor's face when he discovered, and I realized he was here, and stole another peek, and oh gods! A woman knelt beside him, a hand on his leg! I needed to scrub my eyes. That's Sarah, the woman explained. As soon as he arrives, she's at his side. I do believe she carries a torch for him. Slowly, I looked at the woman beside me. He comes here often. One of the side of her lips curled up. Often enough to know what happens beyond the red curtain, and that's enough! I cut her off. I now needed to scrub my brain. I don't need to hear anymore. Her laugh was soft. You have to look at one who is in need of a hiding place. And yes, in the Red Pearl, that is easily recognizable. Look. She definitely took my champagne glass. Upstairs, there is currently unoccupied rooms. Try the 6th door on the left. You will find a sanctuary there. I'll come for you when it's safe. Suspicions rose as I met her gaze, but I let her take my arm and led me towards the left. Why would you help me? She opened the door. Because everybody should be able to live a little, even for a few hours. My mouth dropped open as she Patreon what I thought to myself minutes ago. Stunned, I stood there. Giving me a wink, she closed the door. Her figuring out who I was couldn't be a coincidence. Repeating back to me what I'd been thinking earlier. There was no way. A ruffled laugh escaped my lips. The woman may be a descender, at the very least. She wasn't a fan of the Ascension, but she might also be a sneer. I didn't think there were many left. And still, I couldn't believe that Victor was here. And that he came here often enough that one of the ladies in red liked him. I wasn't sure why I was so surprised. It wasn't like the royal guards were forbidden from seeking pleasure or even marrying. Many were quite promiscuous. Promiscuous. Yeah, promiscuous. Yeah, promiscuous. Fuck! The only exit had me jumping out of the window. You're welcome. Since their lives were rife with danger and often too short. It was just that Victor had a wife who passed along before I even met him, dying in childbirth along with the babe. He still loved his Camellia as much as he had when she lived and breathed. But what could be found here had nothing to do with love, did it? And everybody got lonely, no matter if their heart belonged to someone they could no longer have. Or not. A little saddened by that, I turned around to the narrow stairwell lit by the oil wall thorns. I exhaled heavily. What have I gotten myself into? Only by the gods knew, and there were no turning back now. I slipped my hand inside the cloak, keeping it close to the hilt of the dagger that I climbed the steps to the 2nd floor. The hallway was wider and surprisingly quiet. I didn't know what I expected, but I thought I would hear sounds. Shaking my head, I counted until I reached the 6th door on the left. I tried the handle, found it unlocked, and started to open the door, but stopped. What was I doing? Anybody or anything could be waiting beyond this door. The woman downstairs. The sound of a male chuckle filled the hallways as the door opened beside me. Opened. Panicked, I quickly backed into the room in front of me, closing the door behind me. Heart pounding, I looked around. There were no lamps, just a tree of candles on a mantel. A settee sat in front of an empty fireplace. Without even looking behind me, I knew another piece of furniture would be in the bed. I drew in a deep breath, catching the scent of candles. Cinnamon? Oh shit, I said it right. I'm sorry, I'm proud. Okay. But there was something else. Something that reminded me of dark spices and spine. I started to turn. An arm curled around my waist, pulling me back against very hard. A male body. This, a deep voice whispered, is unexpected. The end of chapter 1. Who's still here? Because, oh god! We take a break. 5 minutes. That was chapter 1. There is a lot of information thrown at us. We got Victor. We got the Dukes and Duchess of Macedonia. And my armpits are sweating. So, main character is named Penelope. And odd spelling. Nickname Poppy. Take notes. This is going to be on your test at the end of the stream. And then there was Rylan, who is her knight. Good thing. Good thing. But now we are in chapter 2.
Do you guys still want the background music? Is the background music good, or you want me to cut off the background music and just read? It's up to you. I'll let you guys do that. It's good? Background music? Pretty good? Alright. I'll keep sipping my sippy sippy. Ugh. Dude, I'm sweating. I turned off my AC for you guys. I'm here going. I'm fucking sweating bullets. It's hot as hell in this room. But I want you guys to have a good experience as I'm practicing how to read. You know, hopefully I do this a little bit more often, and like probably in a month I'm like cracked out on reading. Do you have ice water? My ice is melted. It's gone. There's nothing left. My ass is sweaty. I'm gonna take a shower after the stream. There's no ifs, buts about it. I'm sweaty. It's hot. I'm baking. I'm cooking. I'm trying. Alright. Oh no! Who is this? Kobold? Oh my god. Hello? Hello, Kobold. You came in right in time. My shoutouts don't work. Fuck. I forgot to fix that. Don't look at that. Hi! Hi everybody, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Stick Cult. My name is Aya, and I'm currently reading a book. So if you kind of want to cool down and have an Ayaudible, feel free to. We're on chapter 2 of From Blood and Ash. We kind of got a lot of the setting kind of pad out. We're taking a little break, aka I need water. And just know that the main character's name is Poppy. She is a maiden, and she's alone in a room with a boy. Kobold, it's so nice to see you. It's nice to hear from you. What were you doing? What were you up to? I will give it 2 more minutes until we delve into chapter 2. And continue on this book. If you do need to skedaddle, if this content isn't, you know, something that you want or you like, feel free to, you know, join somebody else's stream or, you know, do whatever you need to do in real life. I am bad at reading, so this may not be pretty for you, but we just finished D&D. Oh, that's great! Oh, that's nice. I actually like your D&D streams. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a VOD watcher. I watch the VODs. Thank you. Thank you for giving me sweet, sweet, succulent, yummy content when I start drawing. I appreciate you. I just want to drop in and say hi, introduce my chat to the artist and my tuber. Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's right. I draw it. That's right. I drew it. Oh, my bad. Woo. I always forget that I draw. Yeah, hi, hello, my name is I. If you don't know me, that's a goddamn shame. I am a stick lord. I run a stick cult. I like boy kissing. Thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna run here, but have a wonderful stream. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing your community with mine. Hopefully you both, I mean both as in like you and your community, have a great time. And hopefully I see you again soon. Now, we're going to be reading chapter 2. I've drank in enough of my green tea to start chapter 2. Alright, chapter 2. I gotta push my chair. I gotta sit up straight. Okay. Chapter 2. Caught off guard, I looked up. A mistake that Victor had taught me to never make. I should have gone for my dagger, but instead I stood there as an arm around my waist tightened, and his hand settled on my hip. But it's a welcome surprise, he continues, sliding his arm away. Snapping it out of my uproar, I whirled to face him, the hood of my cloak remaining in place as my hand went for the dagger. I looked up, and then up some more. Oh, by the gods! I froze, uttered shock rippling through me. Snorting all the what? Snorting? Shorting.
shorting out all the common sense that I had when I saw his face in the soft glow of the candlelight. I knew who he was, even though I never spoken to him. Hawk Flynn. Everybody in the Castle Termin knew when the Rise Guard arrived from Carsodonia, the capital, a few months ago. I had been no different. I wanted to lie to myself and say that it was due to his striking height, placing him nearly a foot taller than me, or it was because he moved with the same inherent predatory grace and fluidity that belonged to a large gray cave cats that normally roam the wastelands, but that I had sensed once in the Queen's place as a child, the fearsome, wild animal that had been caged, and the way it continuously prowled back and forth in this too small enclosure had equally fascinated and horrified me. I had seen Hawk pacing in the same manner on more than one occasion, as if he too were caged. It could have been some sense of authority that seemed to bleed out from his pores, even though he couldn't be much older than I was. Maybe he was the same age as my brother, or a year or two older. Perhaps it was his skill in the sword one morning while I stood beside the Duchess on one of the many balconies at Castle Termin, overlooking the training yard below. She told me Hawk had come from the capital with glowing recommendations, and it was well on his way of becoming one of the youngest royal guards. Her gaze had been fixed on Hawk's sweat-licked arms. So had mine. Since his arrival, I found myself hidden in the storeroom alcoves more than a few times, watching him train with the other guards. Other than the weekly city council sessions held by the Great Hall, it had been the only time I had saw him. My interest could simply be because Hawk was, well, he was beautiful. It wasn't often that I could say that about a male, but I could think of no other better word to describe him. He had dark, thick hair that curled at the nape of his neck and often fell forward, brushing equally dark brows. The planes and angles of his face made me yearn for some talent with a brush or a pen. His cheekbones were high and wide, nose surprisingly straight for a guard. Many of them suffer for at least one broken nose. His square jaw was firm, and his mouth well formed. The few times I have seen him smile, the right side of his lip curved up, and a deep dimple appeared. If he had been matching one in his left cheek, I wouldn't know, but his eyes were by far the most captivating feature. They reminded me of a cool honey, a striking color that I've never seen before, and he had a way of looking at you that left you stripping bare. I knew this because I felt his stare during the councils held before the Great Hall. Even though he never seen my face or even my eyes before, I was sure he regarded was due to the fact that I was the first maiden in the centuries. People always stared when I was in public, whether they were guards, lords, ladies in wait, or commoners. His stare could also just be a product of my imagination, driven by my small hidden desire that he was curious about me as I was to him. Perhaps it was all those reasons why he caught my interest, but there was another one that I was a little embarrassed to even acknowledge. I purposely reached out my senses when I saw him. I knew it. I knew it was wrong to do so when there was no good reason. Nothing to justify the invasion. And I had no excuse other than wondering what made of him pace like a caged cat. Hawk was always in pain. Not the physical kind. It was deeper than that, feeling like chips of sharp ice against my skin. It was raw and felt never-ending, but the anguish seemed to follow him as the shadow never overwhelmed him. If I hadn't prodded, I would have never felt it. Somehow, he kept that kind of agony in check, and I knew of no one else who could do that. Not even the Ascended. Only because I never felt anything from them. Although I knew they felt physical pain, the fact that I never had to worry about picking up residential pain residential? Residual, yeah, resident pain from them should make me seek their presence. But instead, it gave me the creeps. I wasn't expecting you tonight, Hawk spoke. He was giving me a half smile of his now, and one that showed no teeth made the dimple on his right cheek appear, but never quite reached his eyes. It's only been a few days, sweetling. Sweetling? I opened my mouth and then clamped it shut as realization rose. I blinked. He thought I was someone else. Someone he obviously met here before. I glanced back down to my cloak. I barred it. A barred garment. It was rather... Huh? It was rather Shit. It was rather distinctive. A pale blue and aging of the white fur. Bridia. Did he think I was Bridia? She and I were about the same height, a little under average, and the cloak hid the shape of my body, which was not nearly as thin as hers. No matter how active I was, I could not achieve the willowy frame of a Duchess Turman or some other of the ladies. Inexplicably, there was a little part of me, a bit that was hidden, that was disappointed, and maybe a little envious of the pretty maid. My gaze swept over Hawk. He wore a black tunic and breeches that all guards wore under their armor. Had he come straight here after his shift? I gave the room a quick once-over. There was a small table besides the settee. 2 glasses sat. Hawk hadn't been alone in here before I arrived. Could he have been with another? Behind Hawk there was a bed made that didn't appear as if anybody had slept in it. What should I do? Turn and run? That would be odd. He'll be sure to ask Bridia about it, but as long as I return the cloak and mask without her knowing, I would be in the clear. Except Victor, who was most likely still downstairs, and the woman was to... Oh my gods. She had to be Sneer. Instinct told me that she had known this room was occupied. She has sent me here with a purpose. Had she known that Hawk was here and likely to mistake me for Bridia? It seemed too unreal to believe. Did Pennies tell you that I was here? He asked. My breath caught on as my heart started to pound. Fuck. I can't fucking read. Holy shit, the words are blurring together. My breath caught as my heart started pounding like a hammer against my ribs. I thought Penance was the guard on the rise. One around Hawk's age. A blonde, if I remember correctly. But I hadn't seen him downstairs. I shook my head. Have you been waiting for me then? Following me? He asked, tisking softening under his breath. Well, we'll have to talk about that, won't we? There is an odd threat to his voice, one that gave me the impression that he was not all pleased by the idea of Bridia following him. But not tonight. It seems you're strangely quiet, he observed. From what I knew Bridia, she was rarely ever demure. Demure. But the moment I spoke, he'll know that I wasn't the main, and I wasn't ready for him to discover that. I wasn't sure what I was ready for. My hand was no longer on the dagger, and I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was that my heart was still racing. We don't have to talk. He reached for the hem of his tunic, and before I could take another breath, he pulled it over his head, tossing it aside. My lips parted as my eyes widened. I've seen a man's chest before, but never like this. The muscles that flexed and bunched under... Fuck me, dude. The bunched under thinner... Hold on, I need a moment. The bunched under the thinner shirts of the guards trained were now on display. He was broad of the shoulder and chest, all lean muscles defined by the years of intense training. There was a fine dusting of hair under his navel, and that disappeared beneath his breeches. My gaze dipped even lower. The heat returned, a different kind that I didn't just flush my skin, but also invaded my blood. Even in the candlelight, I could see how tight his breeches were, how they gloved his body, leaving very little to the imagination. And I had a vast imagination thanks to the ladies frequently, tediously to overshare in my frequent tediously to listen on their conversations. A strange curling sensation hit my lower stomach. It wasn't unpleasant, not at all. It was warm and tingling. Reminded me of my first sip of bubbly champagne. Hawk stepped over to me, and my muscles tensed to run, but I held myself still by sheer will. I knew I shouldn't have stepped away. I should have spoken and revealed that I wasn't Brydia. I should have left immediately. The way he prowled towards me, his long legs eating up the distance between us, told me his intent. Even if he hadn't removed his tunic, all while I had little, absolutely no experience, I inherently knew that if he were to reach me, he would touch me. Might even do more. He might kiss me. And that was forbidden. I was the maiden, the chosen, not to mention, he thought I was another woman. And he obviously been in this room with somebody else before I even got here. That didn't mean that he had been with somebody, but he could have. I still didn't move or speak. I waited, my heart beating so fast I felt faint. Tiny tremors racked my hands and legs, and I ever trembled. "What are you doing?" whispered the unreasonable sane side of my head. "Living," I whispered back, and being incredibly stupid, the voice countered. I was, but again, stood there. Senses hyper-aware as I watched Hawk stopped in front of me and lifted his hands, gripping the back of the hood with one. For a moment, I thought he might pull me in, and the charade would be over. But that wasn't what he did. The hood only slipped back of a couple of inches. I don't know what kind of game you're here about tonight. I cannot do a deep husky voice. His deep voice was husky, but I'm willing to find out. His other arm came around my waist. A gasp left me as he hauled me to his chest. This was nothing like the brief embraces I have received from Victor. I've never been held by a man like this. There wasn't an inch between his chest and mine. The contact was a jolt to my senses. He lifted me up to the tips of my toes, then clear off my feet. His strength was staggering since I wasn't exactly light. Stunned, my hands landed on his shoulders. Rat ghost. I'm sorry, dude. Alright, Stunned, my hands landed on his shoulders. The heat of his hard skin seemed to burn through my gloves and the cloak and thin white gown I usually slept in. His head slanted, and I felt the warmth of his breath on my lips. A tight tremor of anticipation coiled its way down to my spine. At the same moment, my stomach dipped with uncertainty. Hold on. I should have proved to read this. There was no time for two warring emotions to battle. He pivoted and strode forward with the same kind of feline grace I've seen him before. In the matter of a few stuttering heartbeats, he was guiding us down, his grip strong but careful. As if he was aware of his strength, he came down over me, his hands still behind my head, his weight a shock as he pressed me onto the bed, and then his mouth was on mine. Hawk kissed me. There was nothing sweet or soft, like I imagined a kiss would be. It was hard and overwhelming, claiming. Hold on. I had to leave you. I had to knock on my door. Alright, back to kissing. Had to leave you on a cliffhanger. Alright, where we at? Okay. Hard and overwhelming, claiming, and when I sucked in a sharp breath, he took advantage, deepening the kiss. His tongue touched mine, startling me. Panic flared in the pit of my stomach, but so did something else, something far more powerful. A pleasure I hadn't experienced before. He tasted of a golden liquor. What I had once snuck, and I felt that stroke of his tongue in every part of me. It was in the shivers that erupted all over my skin, in the inexplicable heaviness in my chest that had curling, tightening sensation below my navel, and even lower still where there was a sudden throbbing pulse between my legs. Oh my god, what the— I should have proofread this. Oh my god. This was safe. There was videos on YouTube on this, and Twitch. This is chapter 2. I'm scared. Alright. I shuddered, my fingers digging into his flesh, and I suddenly wished I hadn't worn gloves because I wanted to feel his skin, and I doubted I'll be in any shape to concentrate on what he was feeling. His head tilted, and I felt the brush of his oddly sharp— Without warning, he broke the kiss and lifted his head. Who are you? Thoughts audibly slowed and skin humming. I blinked my eyes open. Dark hair fell forward onto his forehead. His features were shadowed in the soft flickering light. But I thought his lips looked as swollen as mine felt. I'm sitting up now. I was relaxed. This is the hook. This is what gets you in the book. Hawk acted too fast for me to track his movement. Tugging my hood back, exposing my masked face, his brows lifted as a hazel cleared from my thoughts. My heart jumped around in my chest for a whole different reason, even though my lips still tingled from the kiss. My first kiss. Hawk's golden eyes rose to my head and then shifted his hand out from behind my neck. I tensed as he picked up a strand of my hair, drawing it out so it shone a deep ombre in the twilight, or in the candlelight. His head tilted to the left. You're the most definitely not who I thought you were, he murmured. How did you know? I blurted out. Because the last time I kissed the owner of this cloak, she damn near sucked my tongue down her throat. Oh, I whispered. Was I supposed to have done that? It didn't sound like it would be something enjoyable. He stared down at me, gaze— Gotta lock it. Fuck. He stared down at me, gaze ascending as he remained with half of his body on top of mine. One of his legs was thrust between mine, and I had no idea exactly when that had happened. Have you been kissed before? My face caught on fire. Oh god, wasn't that obvious? I have! One side of his lips kicked up. Do you always lie? No! I immediately lied. Liar, he murmured, his tone almost teasing. Embarrassed flooded my system, suffocating the shivery pleasure as if I had been doused in cold winter sleet. I pushed at his bare chest. You should get off. I was planning to. The way he said it made my eyes narrow. Hawk laughed, and it was the first time I've ever heard him do so. When I saw him in the hall, he was quite quiet and stoic like most guards, and I've only ever seen that half grin of his— what the fuck? What? I've only seen that half grin of his while he trained. Oh my god, I can read. But never laughed. And with the anguish I knew lingered below the surface, I wasn't quite sure that he had ever laughed. But he had now. and it sounded real deep and nice. And it rumbled through me, all the way down to the tips of my toes, as I slowed to realize that this was the most I've ever heard him speak. He had a slight accent, an almost mystical tilt to his tone. I couldn't quite place it, but I've only ever been to the capital in here. And it was not often that many spoke to me or around me as if they knew I was present. The accent could have been quite common for all of I knew. You should really move, I told him, even though I liked the weight of him. I'm quite comfortable where I am, he added. Well, I'm not. Will you be telling me who you are, princess? Princess, I repeated. There was no princess or princesses in the entire kingdom beyond the Dark One. Who called himself such? Not since I'm gonna call this place Italian, I swear to God. Altia had ruled. You're quite demanding, he lifted one shoulder in a shrug. I imagine a princess to be demanding. I'm not demanding, I started. Get off of me. He arched a brow. Really? I'm telling you to move. It's not being demanding. We'll have to disagree on that. He paused. Princess. My lips twitched to an eerie humor that I managed to scuffle and smile. You shouldn't call me that. Then what should I call you? A name, perhaps? I am no one, I told him. No one? What a strange name. Do girls with a name like that often make a habit of wearing other people's clothing? Oh, my dog's here.
Chai! Oh, the Tia! Hi, baby Tia! Oh my god, hello! Hello, baby girl! Oh my god, you're so cute! Oh my god, hello, baby girl! Oh, you wanna say hello to Chad? Hello, Chad! Hello! Oh, you licking me? Hello! Yes, hello, baby girl! Oh my god, it's a baby girl! Oh, it's a Chai! Oh my god! Both of you are here! Hello, babies! Hello, my children! My son! My baby! Okay, no barking! No barking! No barking! No barking! You guys have been outside all day! Here you guys go! I got you ice! Come over here! Chai, come over here! Drink your ice! Sorry. Hi, take you, baby! Hi, baby! Hello, baby Chai! I love you, son of a bitch! Damn! I shouldn't have kissed you. You smell. Damn, Chai, you got stanky breath. I love you. I love you. Okay. I love you. I need to read a book. I love you. I love you. I love you. Alright, my bad. He's cute. He keeps staring at me. Don't forget to poke the dog. The boop the dog. I gave him many kiss boops. And he licked my face. Alright. Returning back. Where were we? Oh. A name, perhaps. Wait, no. We're at the habit of wearing other people's clothing. I'm not a girl, I snapped. I would have sure hoped not. He paused, curling down one of the corners. How old are you? Old enough to be in here, if that's what you're worried about. In other words, old enough to be masquerading as somebody else. Allowing others to believe you're another person and then allowing them to kiss. I get what you're saying! I cut him off. Yes, I'm old enough to do all those things. One eyebrow rose. I'll tell you who I am, although I have a feeling you already know who I am. Oh, that was him. I thought it was her. I'll tell you who I am, although I have a feeling you already know. I'm Hawk Flynn. Hi, I said, feeling foolish for doing so. The dimple in his right cheek deepened. This is the part where you tell me your name.
My lips nor my tongue moved. Then I'll have to keep calling you princess. His eyes were much warmer now, and I wanted to see if the pain had ceased, but managed to resist. I thought that perhaps his pain had gone away. If so, at least you can do is tell me why you didn't stop me, he said. Before I could give in to the curiosity and reach out with my senses, I had no idea how I could answer that when I didn't fully understand it myself. One side of his lips quirked up. I'm sure it's more than my disarming good looks. I wrinkled my nose. Of course. Another short, surprised-sounding laugh left him. I think you're just insulting me. Cringed, I winced. That's not what I meant. You've wounded me, princess. I highly doubt that. You have to be more than aware of your appearance. I am. It has led me to quite a few people making questionable life choices. Then why did you say that you were insulted? Realizing he was teasing me, and feeling foolish for not seeing that right away, I pushed at his chest once more. You're still lying to me. Or you're still lying on me. I know. I took a breath. It's quite rude of you to continue doing so when I've made it clear that I would like you to move. It's quite rude of you to barge into my room dressed as your lover. He raised a brow. I wouldn't call her that. What would you call her? Hawk appeared to mull over while still sprawled halfway across me. A good friend. Part of me was relieved that he hadn't referred to her as something derogatory like I overheard other men do before speaking of a woman they had been intimate with. But a good friend? I didn't know friends behaved this way. I'm willing to wager you don't know much about these sorts of things. The truth in his statement was hard to ignore. And you'll wager all of just this on one kiss? One kiss? Princess, you can learn a wealth of things from just one kiss. Staring at him, I couldn't help but feel very inexperienced. The only thing I could tell from his kiss was that it made me feel like he was seeking to possess me. Why didn't you stop me? His gaze swept over the mask and then lower, to where I realized the cloak had parted, exposing the too thin gown and was rather jarring neckline. Honestly, I didn't know that I had been thinking when I had slipped on the garment. It was almost like I subconsciously had been preparing myself for something. My stomach tumbled, more likely than the gown than a false bravado. Bravado? 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 Bravado. Hawk's gaze found mine. I think I'm beginning to understand. Does that mean you're gonna get off of me? So I can move? Why haven't you made him get up? I whispered that stupid, very reasonable, and very logical voice. That was a great question. I knew how to use a man's weight against them. More importantly, I had my dagger and access to it. But I hadn't gone for it, nor had I truly made an attempt to put the space between us. What did that even mean? I suppose I felt safe, at least at the moment. I may know very little about Hawk, but he wasn't a stranger. At least he didn't make me feel that way. And I wasn't afraid of him. Hawk shook his head. I have a theory. I'm waiting with bated breath for this. The dimple on his right cheek appeared once more. I think you came to this very room with a purpose in mind. He was right about that, but I doubt he would be right about the actual reason. It's why you haven't speaked or attempted to correct my assumption of who you are. Perhaps the cloak you borrowed was also a very calculated decision. He continued. You came here because you want something from me. I started to deny what he suggested, but no words rose from the tip of my tongue. Silence wasn't a denial or agreement, but my stomach flipped again. He shifted ever so slightly, with his hand becoming to rest against my cheek. His fingers splayed out. Am I right? Aren't I, princess? Heart skipping all over the place, I tried to swallow, but my throat had dried. Maybe I came here for a conversation. To talk? He rose a brow. About what? Lots of things, I said. His expression smoothed out. Like? My mind was uselessly empty for several seconds. And then I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. Why did you choose to work on the Rise? You came here to talk and ask about that? Not a single thing about his tone or his look said that he believed me. But I nodded while I added that this was yet another example of how I was really bad at making conversations with people. He was quiet and then said, I joined the Rise for the same reason most do. And what is that? I asked, even though I knew most of the reasons. My father was a farmer, and was not the life for me. There aren't many other opportunities offered than joining the Royal Army and protecting the Rise, princess. You're right. His eyes narrowed as surprise flickered across his features. What do you mean about that? I mean, there aren't many chances for children to become something other than what their parents were. You mean it like there ain't... You mean there aren't many chances for children to improve their situations in life, to do better than those that came before them? I nodded the best that I could. The natural order of things doesn't exactly allow that. A farmer's son is a farmer, or they choose to become a guard, where they risk their lives for a stable pay, and as mostly won't live long enough to enjoy, he finished. Doesn't sound like much of an option, does it? No, I admitted, but I had already thought about that. There were jobs Hawk could have strived for, trader, hunter, but they were too hazardous, as they required going outside the Rise frequently. It wasn't as dangerous as joining the Royal Army and going to the Rise. This was the source of his anguish, due to what he had seen as a guard? There may not be many choices, but I still think... No, I know that joining the guard requires a certain level of internet strength and courage. You think that of all the guards, that they're courageous? I do. Not all the guards are good men, princess. My eyes narrow. I know that. Bravery and strength do not equal goodness. We can agree on that. His gaze dropped to my mouth, and chest felt inexplicably tight. You said your father was a farmer. Has he gone to the gods? I'm dying. I need water. Water. Something crept across his face, gone too quickly for me to decipher. No. He is alive and well. Yours? I gave a small shake of my head. My father... Both of my parents are gone. I'm so sorry to hear that, he said. Sounded so genuine. The loss of a parent or a family member lingers long after they're gone. The pain lessening, but never fading. Years later, you'll still find yourself thinking that you'd do something to get them back. He was right, and I thought that this was perhaps the source of the pain he felt. You sound like you know firsthand. I do. I thought of Finley. Had Hawk known him well? Most of the guards were close, developing a bond thicker than blood. But even if he hadn't known Finley, there were surely others he knew that had been lost. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry for whoever it is that you've lost. Death is constant. And I saw a lot of it. I wasn't supposed to, as sheltered as I was, but I saw death all too frequently. His head tilted, sending a tumble of dark locks over his forehead. Death is like an old friend who pays a visit. Sometimes it's the least expected, and other times when you're waiting for her. It's neither the first nor the last time she'll pay a visit. But that doesn't make any death less harsh or unforgiving.
Chia, did you just break all the... Oh, you motherfucker, you spilled all the water on the floor. Oh, you bitch. Chia! Baby girl, no! Oh, motherfucker. Well, I'll clean that in a moment. I gave my dog ice. The ice was fully formed. I now have water splashed on my floor.
Sadness threatened to uptake the resonance in my chest, crowding out the warmth. That it is. He dipped his head suddenly, his lips nearing mine. I doubt the need for conversation led you to this room. You didn't come here to talk about sad things that cannot be changed, princess. I knew why Ed came here tonight, but Hawk was right. Yet again, it wasn't to talk. I came here to live, to experience, to choose, to be anyone other than who I was. None of those things included talking. But I had my first kiss tonight. I could stop here, or tonight could be a night of many firsts, all of my choosing. Was I really considering this, whatever it was? Gods, I truly was. Tiny trembles rocked me. Could he feel them? They piled in my stomach, forming little knots of anticipation and fear. I was the maiden, the chosen. My earlier convictions about what the gods concerned themselves with weakened. Would they find me unworthy? Panic didn't seize me like it should. Instead, a spark of hope did, and that unsettled me more than anything. The tiny glimmer of hope felt treacherous, and the woolly concerning given by the deemed unworthy resulted in one of the most serious consequences. If I were to be found unworthy, I'll face certain death. I'll be exiled from the kingdom. End of chapter 2.
How we feeling, boys? Wake up! Ding, ding, ding! Wake up! I don't have my keys with me. I can't jingle keys. Oh, you know what I can do? I can jingle pills. Wake up! Pay attention! Wake up! How you feel? Wake up! Hello! Welcome, welcome! You awake? Wake up! How you feeling tonight, boys? Now what? I mean, I honestly thought that this would take a little bit longer. I ain't gonna lie. I thought this was gonna take 2 hours. I don't know. I skimmed the book here and there, but I did not think that it was, I thought it was longer chapters. How are you guys faring about the book? Let's have a conversation so far. Other than my horrible reading, I'm trying to get better. Hopefully it's not that horrible. I know I'm fumbling here and there. But hopefully it's not that bad. Give it a rating.
out of 10, please? Is it a 5 out of 10? Is it an average? Well, 5 is average. Okay, we'll do 5. Well, I think it's 5. Does it get more sus? Yeah. I know that there's a scene in here. There's a scene in here that I have to skip if we ever read the book that far. I do know that. Oy. Gia. You're doing great, really? Yeah, there's a book. I mean, it's a romance book. There's bound to be some scandalous things. Let me see how long chapter 3 is, because I don't mind reading chapter 3. Oh, I'm like, oh, chapter 3 ain't that long. No. The page was just loading. Okay, chapter 3 is probably like another like 15 minutes. 20 minutes. I can read chapter 3 if you guys want. It's up to you. I might as well. I'll read chapter 3. Well, we're not really like... I don't think the book's that bad. Well, I have an intermission. The book isn't that bad. It's a lot of... Obviously, it's a lot of foundation. It's a lot of plot foundation. And, you know. I need to crack my wrist and I need to just... There we go. Wrist cracked. Continuing. Alright, chapter 3! Let me take a sippy and we'll go to chapter 3. As far as I knew, there had only been one person who had been found unworthy upon ascension. Their name had been erased from our histories, as well as any piece of information about who they were and whatever deeds had caused them his or hers exile. They had been forbidden to live among mortals, and without family, support, or protection, faced uncertain death. Even the villagers and farmers with their small rises and guards suffered staggering mortality rates. While my ascension was different from the others, I could still be found unworthy, and I imagined my punishment would be just as grave. But I didn't have the mental capacity to deal with that. No, that was a lie. I didn't want to deal with that. I shouldn't. I should, but I wasn't leaving the room. I wasn't stopping Hawk. I've already made up my mind, even if I didn't understand why he was still here. With me. Dampening my lower lip with my tongue, I felt dizzy, and even a little faint. And I never felt faint. Those impossibly thick lashes lowered, and his gaze was so intent on my mouth that it was like a caress. I shivered. Those eyes of his seemed to be brighter before his... What? Before, as his finger traced the outline of my mask, all the way to where the satin ribbon disappeared under the fall of my hair. May I remove this? Unable to speak, I shook my head no. Huck halted for a moment, and then his half-smile appeared. No dimple this time. Though, he trailed his finger away from the mask, then ran it along the line of my jaw down to my throat, to where the cloak was fastened. How about this? I nodded. His fingers were deft. and he brushed the cloak aside and then trailed just one fingertip along the neckline, following the rapid rise of the fall of my breast. A riot of sensations followed his finger, so many I couldn't make sense of them all. "What do you want from me?" he asked, toying with the small bow between my breasts. "Tell me, and I'll make it so."
"Why?" I blurted out. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me, and you thought I was somebody else."
A flicker of amusement crossed his striking features. "I have nowhere to be at the moment, and I'm intrigued."
My brows lifted. "Because you have nowhere to be at the moment?"
Would you rather I wax poetic about how I'm charmed by your beauty, even though I can only see half your face? Which, by the way, from what I can see is pleasing. Would you rather I tell you I'm captivated by your eyes? They are a pretty shade of green from what I can tell. I started to frown.
"Well, no, I don't want you to lie."
None of these things are a lie. He tugged on the bow as he dipped his head, brushing his lips over mine. The soft contact of wave of wait, hold on. Is chapter 3 he's something saucy? What the okay, The contact sent waves of awareness through me. "I told you the truth, princess. I'm intrigued by you, and it's fairly rare anybody intrigues me."
"So?"
"So?" he repeated with a chuckle on his lips and guided along my jaw. "You've changed my evening. I've planned to return to my quarters. Maybe get a good, boring nights of sleep. But I have a suspicious that tonight would be anything but boring if I spent it with you." I drew in a shallow breath, weirdly flattered and yet still confused by his motivations. I wish somebody was here to ask, but even if they were, that would be weird and awkward. Oh, the page reloaded. Oh no. Let me in. Alright, here we go. The two glasses by the settee appeared in my mind.
Were you with somebody before me?"
His head lifted and stared down at me. That's a random question.
"There were two glasses by the settee,"
I pointed out. It's also a random personal question asked by somebody whose name I don't even know. My cheeks warmed. He had a point. He was quiet for so long that doubt crept in. Maybe I shouldn't care if he had been with somebody else this evening, but I did. And even if that told me anything, it screamed that this was a mistake. I was in over my head, and I knew nothing about him, and of what was... I was with somebody else, he answered, a disappointed swelled. A friend, who was not like the owner of this cloak. One I haven't seen in a while. We were catching up in private. The dismay eased, and I decided that he must be telling the truth. He didn't have to lie to me when he could have had any number of others who would be so eager to intrigue him. "So, princess, would you tell me what you want from me?" I took another uneven breath. "Anything. Anything." He moved his hand, then cupping my breast as he ran his thumb across the center. Okay. We're getting here. We're here. We're here now. Jingle, jingle. Jingle, jingle. Attention, guys. I'm gonna butcher this part. I'm gonna be giggling. I'm gonna be kicking my feet. Jingle, jingle. Alright. Here we go. Dude, I'm embarrassed. It was a light touch, but I gasped as bolts of pleasure darted through me. My body reacted on its own, arching to his touch. "I'm waiting," he said, swiping his thumb once more and scattering my already disjointed thoughts. "Tell me what you enjoy so I can make it... I can make you love it." I bit down my lip. I don't know. Hawk's gaze flew to mine, and such a long moment passed that I began to wonder if I said something wrong. I'll tell you what I want. His thumb moved in a slow, tight circles across my most sensitive part. I want you to remove your mask. A sharp, pulsing thrill rippled through my body, quickly followed by my heady wonder. What I felt. I've never felt anything like it before. Sharp and sweet. A different type of anguish. Why? Because I want to see you. You can see me now. No, princess, he said, lowering his head until his lips brushed the neckline of my gown. I want to really see you. When I do this without your gown between you and my mouth. I might send this to you. Okay, go ahead. Before I could ask what he meant, I felt the wet, warm glide of his tongue between the thin silken gown. I gasped, shocked by the action, by the rush of liquid heat that brought forth. But then his gaze lifted to mine as his mouth closed over the tip of my breast.
Wait, what the fuck? Wait, hold on, pause, time out. Wait a minute. Okay, maybe I should have not read chapter 3. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Oh, God. Smut. Okay.
He sucked deep and long, and the gasp turned into a cry that would surely embarrass me later. Remove your mask. His head lifted as he slid a hand over my hip. Please? He wouldn't recognize me if I did. Hawk would never know who I was with or without the mask, but if I removed the facial covering, would he say what the Duke often did? That I was both a masterpiece and a tragedy. And when he felt the uneven slices of skin scattering across my stomach and thighs, would he jerk his hand away in horror? My skin chilled. I hadn't thought this through. At all. The wonder for exerting heat dimmed. Hawk wasn't an ascendant, but he was like them, in appearance, nearly flawless. I had never been ashamed of the scars before. Not that they were proof of the horror that I've survived, but Hawk slid down my outer right thigh to where the dress parted and stopped. Right over the hilt of the dagger. What the? Before I could even take another breath, he unsheathed the blade. His fingers coming precariously close to one of the scars. I sat up, but he was faster, rocking backward. The candlelight glint off the red blade. Bloodstone and woven bone. Give it back, I demanded, scrambling to my knees. His gaze shifted from the dagger to mine. This is a unique weapon. I know. My hair fell forward over my shoulders. The kind that's not inexpensive, he continued. Why are you in possession of this, princess? It was a gift, which was true. And I'm not foolish enough to come here to a place unarmed. He stared at me for a moment and then focused on the dagger again. Carrying a weapon and having no idea how to use it doesn't make one wise. Irritation flared to the life just unholy as the desire he inclined for me just moments ago. And what do you think that I don't know how to use it? Because I'm female? You can't be surprised that I would be shocked learning how to use a dagger isn't exactly common for females in Solus. You're right. And he was. It wasn't socially appropriate for females to know how to wield a weapon, or to be able to defend themselves. Something like that always bothered me. But my mother had known how to use it, how to defend herself. She might still be here. But I do know how to use it. The right side of his lips curled up. Now I'm truly intrigued. He moved unbelievably fast, thrusting the daggered blade down into the bed. I gasped, wondering what the owners of the Red Pearl may think of that. But then he pounced. He took What? He took me back down to the mattress, his weight covering me once more, and he pressed onto me in a way that caused all the interesting parts to meet, his mouth lined with mine. A fist pounded on the door, silencing whatever he was about to ask. Hawk? ML voice ran out. You in there? He stiffened above me, his warm breath against my lips as he closed his eyes. It's Karen. Wait, Karen? A boy Karen? We Karen? R.I.P. It's Karen. The man called out his name I didn't recognize. As if I didn't know that already, Hawk muttered under his breath. And a small giggle left me. His eyes opened. A half grin appeared. Hawk? Karen pounded once more. I think you should answer him, I whispered. Damn it, he cursed, looking over his shoulder as he called out. I'm thoroughly happily busy at the moment. Sorry to hear that, Kieran replied as Hawk refocused on me. Kieran knocked again. But the interruption is unavoidable. The only unavoidable thing I see is your soon-to-be broken hand if you pound that door once more, Hawk warned, and my eyes widened. What, princess? His voice lowered. I told you I was really intrigued. Then I must risk a broken hand, Kieran answered. A growl of frustration. FBI opened up. A growl of frustration rumbled from the deep within Hawk's throat. The sound strangely animalistic. Goosebumps pimpled my skin. The envy has arrived, Kieran added through the door. Shadows crept across Hawk's face. His lips moved as if he mumbled something, but the sound was too low for me to hear. A chill chased away some of the heat. An envoy. He nodded. The supplies we're waiting for, he explained. I need to go. I nodded in return, understanding that he had to leave, and I reached between us, gasping the edge of the cloak. For a long moment, Hawk didn't move, but he shifted off of me. Standing, he called out to Carrion. As he grabbed his tunic off the floor, I yanked the forgotten dagger out of the mattress, quickly sheathing it as he pulled the tunic over his head and shrugged the barbaric over his shoulders. Your music is too loud? My music? What happened? Oh shit! I guess it's already been 2 hours and I switched to another music. Damn, my bad. How long was it like that? We're almost done. We're almost done. My bad, I don't have headphones on. It just did that. Okay. Yeah, it probably just ended then. Securing his belt at his waist, there was 2 sheets at his sides for weapons. Weapons I hadn't been aware until now. He picked up 2 swords from the chest near the door. And I thought that maybe I needed to be better aware of my surroundings the next time I barged into a room. His blades were honed with a wicked, deadly point intended for close combat fighting, and each side was seared, designed to cut through flesh and muscle. I knew how to use them too, but I kept that to myself. I'll come back as soon as I can. He sheathed his swords flat to his sides. I swear. I nodded once more. Hawk stared at me. Tell me that you'll wait for me, princess. My heart skipped a beat over itself. I will. Turning, he walked to the door and then stopped, then faced me. I look forward to returning. I said nothing as he left the room, opening the door only wide enough for him to slip through. Then the door clicked into place behind him. I let it go of my breath as I'd been holding and looked down at the front of my gown. The area of my breast was still damp, the white material nearly transparent. My cheeks flushed hotly as I scooted off the bed and stood surprisingly weak knees. My gaze lifted to the door, and then I closed my eyes, unsure if I was disappointed or relieved by the interruption. Truthfully, it was a mixture of both, because I hadn't lied to Hawk. I wouldn't be here when he returned.
Alright. That was the beginning of,
Ash. From Blood and Ash. From Jennifer L. Armentrout. And,
hopefully this has been entertaining.
hopefully it's been something to listen to in the back. And hopefully you guys like this. I really wanted to read, and because last stream you guys said you like my voice, and I'm like, say less. I got you, boys. I got you, boos. And thus here we are. And being sick was not in my schedule, but hopefully it sounds okay. But my voice is getting kind of sore. I did not anticipate. I think this is probably the most I've ever talked in one go. And yeah, my voice is kind of. I need more practice. I definitely need more practice, especially reading. I'm not the best reader, but yeah. What'd you guys think about the book? I think it's alright. I think it's pretty interesting. So far, Hawk is... Call me princess again! Okay? I'm willing! I'm willing to go! I gotta drink more tea. My throat hurting. You're like this, dude. There was another book that I decided I wanted to read, and I did skim that book. I skimmed these books. I did skim them just to make sure that they weren't too smutty. For TOS reasons. However, the other book that I collected and I opened, and I was going by sections, and there was prominent going at it, and it wasn't just by the main characters. It was some other things of character arcs and development, we will say. Straight up character development, yes. Very much so. And, you know, it was quite exciting. It was quite exciting. That was a book for me and not you. But that will be the end of this Ayaudible. If you guys like it, I will perhaps do it more. But yeah, me don't know. Me don't know if you guys would like more. I would probably just put out a poll. I know Monday is kind of a hard day, especially with, like, you know, everybody's kind of tired and, you know. Yeah, you know. But now, what we will be doing is... What are we gonna do? I anticipated this to take a little longer, but I think 2 hours is kind of fine. What do you guys think? 2 hours is alright? Yeah? 2 hours okay? Alright. Yeah, my voice is kind of hurty. I need to, yeah, I'm gonna practice more on this. Well, we're definitely see if I can do this again. And tomorrow I will be streaming. Yep. Tomorrow I will be streaming. I will be streaming artwork commissions for YouTube side. I know YouTube, I am dual streaming right now. YouTube side, I will be streaming on Twitch because YouTube does not like many things that I do. And for Twitch, you guys know the drill. Everything's kind of the same. Everything's the same. Now, I'm gonna go rest up. And let's see who is on Twitch actually this evening. I'm having gross sniffles. You know, this is actually a perfect end time too. Because the gross sniffles, it's happening. It's becoming. It's here. You know, just gross sniffles. Oh, Astral's on. What is he? What is he playing? Sketchy Contract? Okay. Yeah, we're gonna be raiding into Astral. For Twitch side at least. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I know this is a very short stream. But what can you do, right? It's just a book reading. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow at 7... I know I wrote 7 p.m. that I would be streaming, which is PST time or PT time. For a CST, I believe that it's probably like, I don't know, 8 for you guys. Maybe even later. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining in this reading, supporting this. I really appreciate it. I was kind of worried. I was very nervous that anybody would actually enjoy this type of content. You know, branching out, doing new things. And, yeah. Dr. Frost, I will literally... How fucking dare you? How dare you? How dare you? I'm going to call you. Motherfucker, I'm about to beat your ass. I swear to God, Doctor. Frost! Why? Why could you do this to me? Hey, yo, what's up, baby girl? How you doing? If you don't know me, my name is Aya, and it's a goddamn shame if you don't know me. I am a foxed. Fox? What? What am I? I'm a ink yokai. I'm a demon fox. Dude, I've been reading so much. I don't know words. Hi, hello, welcome to my stream. I'm kind of fuzzled with words at the moment. Hopefully you've been having a great time at your stream. If you do need to skedaddle, please feel free to do so. If you know, just want to stick around, hang out, by all means. We were actually gonna end and raid out. But I do have a hidden rule here that if I get raided, it adds 30 minutes to the timer. So I will now figure out what to do. I will figure out what to do. There you go. There's the words. There's the words. And we read a book. Oh no. Yeah. We're gonna figure out something to do. May it be pleasing to the eye or not, but well, we'll definitely figure something out. I'll find something to figure out. I'll do something to figure out. But we did currently read a book. It's called From Blood and Ash from Jennifer L. Armentrout. I'm butchering her name every time I say it. It was a very interesting book about romance. And, you know. Oh, dude, you guys missed it. We got some, like, tit licking up in here. It was nice. It was still within Twitch TOS, dude. Yeah, I gotta give you that side-eye look, like, it was a nice thing to read upon. Nice thing to giggle and kick my feet. Alright. Damn, what a great read. Yeah, it was. It definitely was. It. But alright, I will be ending my YouTube side here because we will be doing a few things that aren't gonna be YouTube copyright friendly. So, YouTube, I love you. Everybody say goodbye to YouTube. Bye, YouTube! Goodbye! Love you! Kiss you! Watch the VOD! For those who did watch the YouTube VOD, big kiss, big kiss, big kiss. For my video editor, big kiss. Alright. Bye, YouTube. Bye-bye. I see you later. Ahí te wacho. Adios.